For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jackie Khor, Vice President for Programs at College Access Foundation of California. This afternoon panel this first panel is going to focus on examples on successful FAFSA completion efforts at the district level. Represented here on the panel with me are Gloria Ponce-Rodriguez and Erin Martinez, respectively from the Fresno and Riverside Unified School Districts. For those of you who are FAFSA completion wonks and cognoscenti, you will recognize that these are the two California school districts that participated in the first pilot from the U.S. Department of Education's Universal FAFSA completion efforts. So we have in front of you the poster children of the first pioneers of Universal FAFSA efforts here in California. So we have the privilege of learning from their experience, lessons learned from working with Greg and his team in Washington, D.C., and what they did with the data that they got access to from the U.S. Department of Education, which is student-level data, am I correct? Student-level. So to enable them to then track how many students in their respective districts completed their FAFSAs, applied for the FAFSAs, had incomplete FAFSAs, and then needed some help in following through. So we're going to spend about, each of them, I've told them, will have about between 10 to 15 minutes to make a presentation to describe the context. And the beauty of this little tremendous duo is that we have here Gloria from the district level, and then we have Erin, who's a counselor, who's going to talk about what she did and she and her colleagues did at the counselor level with the information that she got from the district people and what they actually did in terms of tactics and strategies they did to actually follow through with the students. Okay, so I'm going to turn over to Gloria, and then there'll be plenty of time, hopefully, for questions and answers.
Good afternoon. I'm sure everyone's tummy is full. Excuse me, sorry. I'm going to go quick, so because I want to respect everyone's time, and I'm not going to give you so much detail. But first, I just want to say I thought this was really the best opportunity for Fresno Unified School District. Actually, Fresno Unified was the first district to upload the FAFSA data. And I got a lot of bumps and bruises, late nights trying to figure it out. But is there anyone here that's on the new pilot? Raise your hand. Okay, well, you'll learn a lot about all the bumps and bruises that I went through, so it should be an easier transition for your school district. But first, I want to just go on and just kind of give you an overview of our school district. We're the 4th largest school district in the state of California. We serve over 73,000 students. Seniors for the 2011-12 is 4,565. Graduating seniors is 3,476. And students that receive free reduced lunch, almost 90% of our kids. Fresno is also one of the most concentrated poverties in America. We deal with many challenges. Many are migrant kids as well, students not having Social Security numbers and so on and so forth. And many of you probably will know about the DREAM Act and DREAM Act next year in 2013. This is just the beginning. Many of you have the chart, so I'm not going to go over it with you, but this is how I started the process.
Yeah, I should just say that we've been actually passed out the slides that Gloria has and that Erin has. So you may want to refer to them and definitely keep them.
Definitely. Okay, the way we identified by flags, you need to understand the flag codes, especially dealing with the FAFSA Pilot. Flag 0 means there's no match, and it could be for various reasons. Flag 1 is defaulted to flag 3, and that's missing the signature on the actual FAFSA. Flag 2 is what you want. That means the student has completed a FAFSA, received the EFC, expected family contribution, and they're ready for their schools to award them. Flag 3 was the flag that I focused on the first year because we had 1,094 students that were flag 3, and all the counselors were gone. So this is a lot of work on myself. So I had to be creative. I trained our parent university, and they helped me call these schools because I had to break down the data. I had to aggregate the data, and I definitely need a phone number because we had to call the individuals to let them know that their FAFSA was not completed. But the way we submitted is last name, first name, date of birth, zip code. When we upload it to the FSA, Federal Student database. It comes back normally the next day, maybe 2 days, but it comes back the same way, but it includes the flag code, the day it was submitted, and the day it was processed. And that's the data that comes back from the Department of Ed. Here why? How does FAFSA tracking fit into the district's larger strategies? Well, we're able to track and monitor our students. We're able to work with our students more of a caseload strategy as opposed to random counseling. And that's very important, especially first generation, low income, and economically distressed communities. It also increases college enrollment and retention, prevents any of our students standing in those long financial aid lines, because see, I used to work at a university, at Norfolk State University, and probably some of you heard that Obama was there the other day. Behold the green and gold. Anyway, I too was a dropout, just so you know that. I was a dropout. I didn't go back to school till the age of 37, and I grew up in one of the most concentrated poverty communities in America, and that's West Fresno. And for me to go to Norfolk State, I learned a lot because I also received both my bachelor's and my master's from that school. It's a historically black college. It's the 5th largest HBCU in the country out of 103. And I also got a job there. So I worked in General Student Financial Services, I worked in financial aid, I worked in the Office of the Registrars, and I worked in the Office of Admissions. So I know what kids face when they come there. And when they're not prepared, I'm going to tell you right now, I've seen many students go home because their financial aid was not straight. Literally crying, going back to Texas, going back to New York, going back to California, because they said, well, I know I'm getting financial aid. And that's why it's so, so very important that we work with our students at the school level. Also, it improves awareness and accuracy in completing the FAFSA, and FAFSA data can be used for future dashboards for your school district. And of course, school accountability. I'm not going to read all of this to you. You have the PowerPoint, but I do want to mention this. Caseload strategy, not random acts of guidance. That's what this data provides to our school districts. So not just saying you're talking to a whole bunch of kids, you got the FAFSA, yes, no. You actually can identify these individuals. Also allows for internal solutions based on building capacity, training the trainer. I conduct training the trainer for our staff, for our CBOs, our community-based organizations, but I do it with my partner, Fresno City College, and we have the former financial aid rep here, who's now with Peralta, and we also have...
Yeah, he's here in Oakland.
So Gary Nichols, and also Ms. Tippins. Ms. Tippins, she is the director of our Fresno City, and she and I are going to be working very, very close together. But anyway, we train individuals in the community. I train upward bound counselors. I even trained some of the counselors at some of the community colleges, such as Reedley and places like that, to help them understand that this is the way we want our students to learn. This is the way we want you to train or educate our parents. We want to align you with what we are rolling out at our school district. And also, the FAFSA Pilot aligns the FUSD equity and access. Does anyone have equity and access at their school site? Okay, so you know what the equity and access means, that we also have to make sure, allow our Fresno Unified students to ensure that all students that apply to college have evidence of completing the FAFSA. This year, we had 65% of our students applying. 62% completed the FAFSA. Okay.
Above the national average. Yay.
And I'm excited about that, but there's still more work to do because I got to identify those other students that didn't. But this is the starting point. We received our FAFSA, our data in mid-May. Our counselors are working on graduation. So guess who had to pick up the load? Myself and my partners. So working with partners is very, very important because you have the same mission. Also the timeline. I upload and download. That means I get my data. One of the key things is clean up your data. If you're working with the, clean up your data. That means this is very, very important that you understand this. Your seniors that move around in different schools, make sure they have an accurate address before they leave, because the address that they give to FAFSA, if you're running data, is not going to match, especially if you're on the pilot, okay? If you're on the pilot, then I'm going to tell you right now, you may have this number like 2,500 and something. You're going to fall out of your chair. What? Didn't apply. And then when you start finding out that you have to clean up your data, then you'll understand what I'm talking about. And I am so thankful for this tool. Also, we run reports every other day. We upload it to our beta tool for caseload, for counselor caseload, follow-up, and accountability. And also, we also use our data to break it down and aggregate our data by high school, name, phone number, gender, GPA, program, AVID, foster, or whatever it may be. You can break up your data that way, okay, with this new pilot. And it's a blessing, trust me. And this is what we have. Now, we have our Access and Equity. Jorge Aguilar, who is borrowed, I don't know if he's still borrowed, if he's with us, but he came from UC Merced. He created this tool here, and it's still a pilot. It's used at Fresno Unified. All my tool from the FSA is uploaded also to his tool, and it's a pilot. And so the counselors are able to look at their individual students to see if they applied for a PIN, see if they've completed the data, and also, as you can see all the way to the right, it tells you their flag if they have no no FAFSA on file, sorry. I'm trying to talk fast. Also, we want to align and revamp trainings to be consistent. If you're going to do any trainings, also use that FAFSA demo test. Has anybody used this FAFSA demo? Raise your hand if you have.
Is it available to everybody?
It's available. Go to that website.
You don't have to be part of the pilot, right?
You don't have to be part of this pilot. Use this to train your counselors. It's a very good website, and that way they're not so intimidated in using it, and also your parents. Also, we have Parent University. We have our actual department with staff, I think like 20+ staff members. Parent University works with our families in the district. Okay, I train them, they conduct the workshops, or sometimes I conduct the workshops for them. We have something called Financial Literacy 1, 2, and 3 workshops for families that our Parent University conducts. Financial Literacy 1 gives you the overall basics about financial aid, because sometimes parents want to understand what FAFSA is about. And then you have those parents that just want to go to the lab and complete the FAFSA, right? And then I have Financial Literacy 2 that breaks down all the grants and state grants, federal grants. They don't know what a SEOG means. Anybody know what SEOG means? Raise your hand if you do.
You are really, really wrong.
All right.
That's
okay, a TEACH grant. You know, there's a lot of people that don't know that a TEACH grant, I don't care if you make $1 million a year. If you want to be a teacher and you have a TEACH grant, you meet a certain GPA, you're able to get that $4,000 a year. People don't talk about that. FAFSA, everybody should complete a FAFSA. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Everybody. Because if you don't, you're alienating yourself from receiving federal aid or maybe merit scholarships or things of that nature. Also, working closer and breaking down the barriers for college success. You got to do what works, just so long as you stay in the parameters of FERPA laws. Collaboration partnerships, they have been my backbone. Can't do it without them. Our district, we work together, and we work very closely with Fresno City Community College. We have a memorandum of understanding with Cal State University Fresno, and of course I just mentioned you with the beta tool with UC Merced. Reading and Beyond, we're a prospective Promise Neighborhood site. We had Austin, Boston, and Fresno. Fresno got the preliminary funding. I'm able to break it down by zip code. I have Miss Soraya from Reading and Beyond. She calls me, she says, well, how many of our 93701 kids applied for FAFSA? I give her the number. You had 122 seniors, only 44 completed the FAFSA. Do you see that data? You see that information I can provide? But again, you have to be very careful. But our FAFSA pilot also correlates with Promise Neighborhood Partnership. Am I not right, Greg? Now, our first year, because again, Fresno Unified was the first to upload. When we received the data, it was in 2010, in mid-May sometime. And I uploaded it in June. I don't know how I did it, but it was staying up late at night, reading that book in and out, trying to understand it. And I was concerned. I wanted to focus on my kids that applied. You know, I have this data. What can I do with it? Well, I worked with 1,094 students with Fresno City. We used their labs. They allowed us. Our counselors were gone. We used their facilities. We used their staff. They helped me. And that year, we submitted, the state of California, Fresno City had the 3rd highest FAFSA applications in the state of California. However, we had the most Pell Awards at 59%, and that's because of our work. Most of our students go to Fresno City. Okay, the majority of our kids go to Fresno City. So after Greg gives us all the okay and what we can do and can't do, I recommend you go through him first. You may want to partner with your city, your community college. Okay, outreach deeper. That's what it's all about. If you want to penetrate communities of color and underserved communities, economically distressed communities, you have to penetrate even further. That means provide monthly trainings or conduct more trainings to other people like promotoras. How many of you know about promotoras? Okay, use their strategy. You train people that people trust. You go to congregations. I go to congregations, we go to workshops, whatever it takes. At that time, Gary and I were going into the communities, Super Sundays, Saturdays, going into churches. Univision, we did it on TV. Univision, we did it in the mall. We had, 400 or 500 people come out. We troubleshoot. We partnered with the Department of Office of Education. They had their staff out there. They had 30 laptop computers. We were helping our community because that's what it's all about. So then you want to work more with Parent University if you have them, and include other departments that serve funded programs like AVID, okay, like ESL, migrant, foster, and also the reduced lunch people. I'm going to say people because that's USDA, they give a lot of money. So you may want to work with them and also let them know, look, these are the kids that are actually, you're providing these services, they're moving on to college. Work more with CBOs. Create a FAFSA committee, not with just the community colleges. Create one with your mayor, your Chamber of Commerce, your Office of Education. We already know that there's a consortium of people that meet in higher education, but what about the stakeholders? Because we're the stakeholders. And that's where you should create a committee, and that's what we're doing. Also, a proclamation. I sent a copy of proclamation to Jackie. She can send you one. You can duplicate it for your own area. We have one for our city and our county. Okay. Now, top 10 questions you can see. Is my application on file? I forgot my pen. How can I add a school to my FAFSA? How much financial aid? These are questions that people ask. These are the top questions when they call FSA. Just want to share with you the statistics. Of course, the first year we had this is our baseline, 38%. I didn't include Flag Code 1 because we didn't really have anything on Flag Code 1 because it defaults to number 3. 2010, we had a 5% increase, but we also had 300 plus more students, but we did have a 5% increase. That was something positive, although we were challenged in receiving the by receiving the data until mid-May, and we still made it happen, at least 5%. Now, this year, if you're going to do data, get all your seniors and get all your graduating seniors, keep them separate. Now I'm able to see which one's which. As you can see, the 2012, we have less than 1,000. Before we had 1,094. Now we have 4%, which is 197. But our graduating seniors, we have 62%. That's good because we show 65% of our students applied for college. And this just kind of gives you a little table how I did it. I didn't put all the dates on there. I just put some random dates that I requested data. We request data. We can request data every other day on the beta tool. On the FAFSA tool. So that just tells you what we had. Like, for example, 2006, we had 2,779. August 20th, I had 2,163 completed FAFSAs. And if you haven't been to the conference and you have counselors, I recommend that you send them to this conference. We have conferences every year. I've been going for the past 15 years. This is where really all the information is released for FAFSA. Okay, all the federal guidelines. It's geared more towards financial aid administrators. However, there are different workshops that will help your counselors. You should send one person so that way that person can come back and do some training and train your counselors. Okay, and also they have videos because those videos you can use also for training because they video these workshops and you can use them there in your office or your counselors can look at these videos at their convenience. And this is a website that I recommend that you go to, ifap.edu, ed.gov. Also go to the FSA for counselors. You probably have that one. The Financial Aid TV, if you go to our website, go into student resources, you can see little videos on what is a Pell Grant, what is a SEOG. Also, there's one called the IRS Retrieval that I'll be uploading because everybody's scared to use the IRS Retrieval. But the federal government is pushing you to use it. It's a 4-minute video. But just let me share something with you. The first year it came out, there were 900,000+ students. That was almost 1 million. Last year, 4 million. They're hoping to at least, 25 million or more, right, Greg? If you don't, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. You're going to have to call this 1-800 number, request for an IRS transcript, or you're going to have to go down to the IRS like many of my parents did. They were all upset about it, but I said, well, that's why you should have came to the workshop.
Can you explain just, Gloria, what does the IRS Retrieval allow you to do?
The IRS Retrieval is like that W-2 form that you used to have to give to the financial aid office. Now they want something called the IRS Transcript. Okay, that shows that you actually did your taxes, and if you didn't, it will show that you didn't do your taxes. Now, it also prevents you from being selected for verification, which when our students get to the college, you know what selection for verification is. That means you got to produce some more papers. So you want to encourage them to use the IRS Retrieval. That's the best thing to do. It would prevent them from standing in long lines, going to other departments, and going back and forth with the financial aid office. Okay.
Gloria, but it pre-populates the FAFSA form.
Yes.
It reduces the time to fill it out to about 10 minutes.
Yes.
From an hour.
Right, because now it takes 23 minutes. Last year was 23 minutes, so hopefully this upcoming year will be a lot less.
Dina, do you have a specific question about this?
Specific question about the FAFSA transcript. Is it always, do you always have to get that when you do FAFSA retrieval, the FAFSA transcript?
No, if you do the FAFSA retrieval, you don't have to do the transcript.
Okay.
It prevents you from doing that. Okay. So that's why we encourage you. I'm trying to hurry up, so I'm talking as fast as I can.
She's staying for the reception, so
yeah. Okay, the Counselor and Mentors Handbook. How many of you know about the Counselor and Mentors Handbook? Raise your hand. Okay, I brought 4 with me. They're all free. You can order them. You can even get them online. Every counselor should have one, okay?
Order sheet on the table outside.
Oh, there's an order sheet right outside. Oh, thank you. Good, you're ahead of the curve. Oh, my gosh. Okay, ensure all those that serve FAFSA understand the FAFSA. I'm going to tell you why. There's a lot of misinformation going out there. Sometimes people give information from the previous year. And then when the student's completing the FAFSA, it's wrong. So what does that cause? That causes an error, that may be a flag 3. So if you're having a person work with FAFSA, make sure that they're trained and make sure that they're up to date on all the guidelines, okay? I'm going to move faster. I'm not even going to go through all of that. Recommendations, addresses, got to match. Our system, school system, got to match, has to match the FSA. Also, parents without a Social Security and the student has a Social Security, make sure they put the 9 zeros, print out a hard copy, and then encourage them to come back to you so you can help them complete the hard copy because they're questions that they would have completed online. Does that make sense?
Say that again.
I know, I'm talking fast. I got to slow it down. Can I slow it down just a second?
Okay.
When families, you know, when the student completes their FAFSA, we still need the parent to do theirs, and they may not have a Social Security number. You put the 9 zeros, okay? You print a hard copy. You print a hard copy, you sign it, you send it in. What's going to happen at their prospective school of attendance, they're going to send those same questions on hard copy. Parents get scared, but you need to tell them ahead of time, because if they don't complete that, that student's opportunity to college is gone. Or it's not gone, but, you know, they won't get their financial aid that year. Okay, so it's very important, and I'll answer more questions at the reception. Run 2 reports for all seniors and for graduates. Also, middle school, use the My Way, My Future, How to Go, How to Pay. From FSA, it's geared towards middle school students, and also the FAFSA forecasters. It's geared towards middle school students. If you're preparing kids in middle school, why not start preparing with financial aid as well? Okay, and this is basically what I was talking about, the Social Security, also the IRS Retrieval, I went over that. Oh, FERPA law is very, very important. You have to comply. I recommend that you read the FERPA laws, okay, because I had to learn the hard way. Use the DRN number, the data release number, okay, that don't use the Social Security. Do you know what a DRN means? Okay, data release number. That's what you can use to make any changes with FSA. Am I right on track, Greg? Okay. Oh, okay, I'm finished. Thank you. Did I do good timing?
You did terrific. So just want to, now we're going to turn to Erin, and I know a lot of the access to data, obviously, that Gloria mentioned is only available to those who are participating, who have been chosen to participate in the pilot. Obviously, one obvious question for Greg to think about that I'm going to ask, because I know some of you are probably asking, the vast majority of the districts here represented aren't part of even the second wave. What are other ways they can help? You can use the data that's available publicly to track, to make sure that as many students as possible in each high school complete the Pell Grants. I mean, the FAFSA. Go ahead, Erin.
Hi. I think I'd like to start this presentation by being ruthlessly honest. Being a counselor is really overwhelming. I'm overwhelmed. I really am. There are so many pulls on our time. There are so many responsibilities, and so much of what we do is not tangible to us because we do it, we touch these kids and off they go, and every once in a while you see them come back, but we don't, a lot of it's not tangible. So when I started to get involved with this 2 years ago, I'm the lead counselor at, for Riverside Unified School District. I'm a counselor at North, and I help coordinate the 5 high schools and the independent study groups and our alternate education programs to try to make sure that the FAFSA training, FAFSA word, FAFSA applications, that gets out. So when I heard, she told me to speak loudly, and I was a teacher for 11 years, I thought, shh, can you hear me okay back there? All right, and generally I have people tell me to shh, so I thought I'd tone it down. No problem, I'll use my teacher voice. When I got involved a couple of years ago, and the idea was really simple and very focused for us, and that was, your goal is to increase FAFSA completion rates because there is a direct connection between that and kids going to college. Simple concept. We're going to provide you with concrete data. We're going to tell you who didn't complete it, who has an error, who has completed, and you're going to get this data every single week. And so go. Take it. I just about did a little Snoopy dance. I was so excited that it was a focused little job and that the results were going to be tangible for us. We were going to weekly see what we were doing, okay? So the first year, let me back up just a tiny bit. A little bit about RUSD, and then I'll go into what we did. Riverside Unified, I think, is fairly standard across the nation with respect to our demographics. We're a fairly, I guess, a moderate-sized district in most respects with 42,000 students. We have a large percentage of students on free or reduced lunch. At my particular high school is over 70%. Our district-wide is 55%. We have a fairly significant chunk of English learners. At our high school, it's a bit higher. Hispanic, in our high school in our district, we are majority Latino, Hispanic students. That's the basic demographics. We started by, and we've counselors work really hard to get the financial aid word out. I think sometimes we get a bad rap that we tend to, I think we tend to do shotgun blasts over students. That's a terrible way to put it, but I mean, we kind of do this I don't know, this spray of information, hoping we get as many kids as we possibly can. And we do information nights, which is how counselors do it because we have a lot of kids to hit in a very short period of time. And financial aid and college going is not all we do. There's a lot more to it, as I know you're aware. So we try to get as many kids together as we can in as little time as possible to get as much information to them, and it's difficult. But we started with, financial aid nights. We do college nights and financial aid information nights. And prior to this FAFSA pilot and us getting this data, we did one financial aid night, we did one cash for college night. Each high school was completely independent. We did not collaborate. There were no college or university partnerships. It was basically each high school fend for yourself with your population and get as much done as you can. And as you know, it wasn't terribly successful for the most part. What we started with that first year is trying to, again, just get more the information out there by holding more Cash for College workshops. And are you all familiar with Cash for College workshops? Just making sure that our families in our district had plenty of opportunity at the high schools, in communities, at churches, local recreational centers, at the local colleges. That we just made sure we went from maybe 2 or 3 Cash for College and financial aid nights to over 40 in our district. So they were countywide, running from our early bird January 4th, which they told us would not work, but it did, and all the way to the Saturday before the deadline, the March 2nd Cal Grant deadline. At these workshops, we made sure, one of the things we had to work on that first year is making sure that people were trained. I was responsible for making sure that those who presented the workshops were trained. We would bring in university people, and then for our bilingual translators, our community volunteers, we made sure that they had some of the critical information. And the bottom line to that for the Cash for College workshops is most of the mistakes made are really, really simple. And it's not about being complicated information. It's about the simplest of information. So when volunteers come in, and it's parents, it's community assistants, it's student volunteers, it's just giving them the basics of this is what you're going to encounter, and this is how you answer it. And if the question's harder than that, you call FAFSA, or you make sure that somebody else knows. You don't try to answer it if you are not sure, because I think that was a big chunk of our error messages is they wanted to help. It looked like a simple answer, so they gave it to them, and I think we directed them in the wrong way. And I think we've gotten a hold of that in our district, and I'll show you that. But that was my job, just making sure everybody was trained and had the information. If you don't know, don't answer. And again, we started with early workshops January 4th. I had probably 60, well, maybe 50, 60 families show up, which was pretty significant for us on that. And that's right after the application date, which I thought was pretty successful. And then we had an average of about 30, 40, 50 at each workshop after that. That was our average. So I think we had a fairly good turnout. And then again, we offered Saturdays for families who needed them, especially right before March 2nd when everybody went, scattered and needed to get that done last minute. The follow-up now in this last year has been, I think, the most significant. And this summer, I think, more so. We learned a lot more with what we did this summer and about what we still need to do based on individual appointments with families. So basically what we do is we get updated FAFSA data to counselors each week. We get those numbers. Our district coordinator, the Gloria of Riverside, would get those numbers and send them out to me. And that was broken down by high school and by counselor, and then again broken down by groups. Special eds were tagged, English learners were tagged, avid students were tagged. We got out to classrooms, we did classroom visits, and again, counselor style, going out to classrooms and making large announcements. We're having a workshop, everybody come, it's important, and so on. We did phone dialers, again, large shot, phone dialers to everybody. FAFSA deadline's coming up, it's important, please come. And that mostly worked, but not completely. We've got a lot more work to do. And I should show you this. You can't see this, and I'm sorry. This is just what the council report in Riverside Unified looked like, the information that I get, where it's broken down again on the top slide there. You can see that's the high school. Down here on the bottom slide, it's individual students' names and if they've completed it, if they're missing a signature, if it was processed and all good to go, or whether there are still problems to be reconciled that we need to follow up on. And this is what each counselor at each school used in order to follow up. Lessons learned. I don't know if I want to go by that because I did a lot of thinking when I was listening to everybody talk earlier. I want to go back again before I hit this and just make sure that I'm clear to you on how specifically how counselors use the data. Our ones and threes, each counselor at each high school, each caseload, we targeted our ones and threes first. Ones meaning they were missing a signature, easy to fix, and threes meaning something has not processed well, there might be an error, they might be missing something, and they need follow-up in order to get it submitted successfully. So we grouped that bit of information, and we gave that either to the counselor caseload, we had some interns helping us, but we pulled those kids in during the school day individually to say, hey, I don't think you signed your FAFSA, let's double check it. I think you're missing some information to try to get those kids to resolve them. The O's code, meaning those students who did not submit their FAFSA, those were again handed off to the counselors, and each counselor was responsible for following up with their own caseload. And as you can imagine, I think that we made some success or made some headway, but for the most part, I think it needed a lot more follow-up over the summer, a lot more coordinated follow-up, and that's what we worked on this year. We did also offer evenings for help. After the March 2nd deadline, from March 2nd to May, we offered 2 or 3 days a week where our counselors or college coordinators would come to the high schools and we would be open, like from 6 to 8 for walk-ins or for appointments, for helping resolve errors or answer questions. And I have to tell you, that was not successful. That was a lesson learned. Opening it up that way and just saying, okay, we're open, come on in, people did not respond. Phone dialers didn't work. Once the original FAFSA Cash for College workshops were done and we were doing follow-up, the calls for, okay, those of you who still need help, come on in, they weren't successful. Phone dialers home, going into classrooms to say, hey, you can still do your FAFSA, we weren't getting what we needed. What works, what I found works, and what we're going to use to do to focus more this year is direct, specific, and personal contact with those kids. It has to be direct. It has to be a phone call, it has to be a letter. It has to be specific. Hey, this is the phone call that went out before, the phone dialer was, this is your guidance office from John W. North High School, calling to remind you that there's a Cash for College workshop offered on February the blah, 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 or that there's a March 2nd deadline. This summer, in June, we called and said, hi, this is your counselor at North. Our records indicate you have not signed your FAFSA, honey. It's just sitting there. If you need help getting that signature in, come on in. We'll schedule an appointment for you. If not, we can walk you through it on the phone, and if you prefer, here's the phone number for FAFSA, you can call. We were direct, we were specific, and we were personal. The problem was, as you can imagine, it was huge. We had about 4,300 seniors. We had about 3,000 graduates. And we only had about half of them complete the FAFSA. And we had a chunk of them with it was overwhelming. And there were two community assistants who made phone calls and 3 counselors who took those appointments. We scheduled 300 appointments for the month of July. We worked 150 hours, meeting with kids about every 30 minutes. We had a big chunk of no-shows. Out of those 300 appointments, maybe 150 showed. But I have to tell you that those 150 students, that was the most powerful month I've spent. These families came in completely, frazzled. And these aren't, I think there's a perception among a lot of people, maybe not, maybe just me, that it's the low-income students with the uneducated parents that are completely confused, and that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing college-educated families coming in going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what this means. Here's my SAR. It's 12 pages long. Just tell me what button to push. I said, so I got to where the first 5 families where I got to, all I had to say was, don't worry, we can fix this. It's probably simple. And all of them, their little shoulders went down, and it was okay. And usually, it was simple, and it was done in minutes. That was huge for me. And the look on the kids and the families' faces when we submitted it, and their cell phones went ping because they got the confirmation. They're like, whoa. It was awesome. It was. That's why I counsel. It's overwhelming. I love this because it's clear, it's focused, and it's doable. And it's so critical to what we do. And if this is all I do, I think I'll be okay. It's not all I do. It's a fraction of what I do, but it's important work. I know I completely lost all this. I'm sorry. I'm on to something else. I'm sorry. Well, I asked you. I said I word walk. I was a teacher for 11 years. Where are you?
No, you're fine.
Okay. I should also tell you that I taught for 11 years. I taught history. History teachers talk way too much. We know. I taught academy kids. Those are the at-risk kids. If you know California Partnership Academies, for 11 years, that's what I had. 80% of those kids are English learners. I taught pre-IB classes. That's the opposite end of the spectrum. And I did that all in a day, sometimes in the same class. I taught 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade. I've been a counselor for 6 years. This is my 7th year. The first year was my regular caseload, 750. The last 5 years, I have been the English learner counselor. So you can imagine I've gotten quite focused in that particular population's needs. And this FAFSA project, and what I'm seeing is, there's a correlation here among that population and our population at our school and our low numbers for FAFSA. My point is, I have a perspective. I have a perspective from the teacher standpoint, from the different population standpoint, shoot from the parent standpoint. I have 3 college graduated kids. I am so deeply in debt, I can't see straight. I've got that perspective as well. So I have a purpose here. Okay. A couple of other things that we did. District competition last year, district competition among our 5 high schools. We had that weekly data. We knew who was completing the information. Our goal was to increase to send the completion rates up. So we were publishing these, putting them on the announcements, and it was, I think, $1,000 or something to the high school who had the highest numbers. And the competition got ugly among counselors. And it was me, because I was going to often many of the different schools, helping with the training and helping with Cash for College workshops, and they were, we were collaborative. They were coming to us. And we were arguing. 30% of your kids, that's me. I need a little kickback. No, we were kidding, but it did. The competition, honestly, the competition was helpful, using those numbers to increase the competition and to increase that push and putting it here, I guess, for counselors. If this is significant, and looking at those numbers weekly, kept it here when we have so many other pulls on our time. Okay. This is our data. And when I first saw it, I was excited. And I was excited because when you look at the percentage of 2s, which means their expected family contributions were processed, which means it worked, the FAFSA went in, it's done, it's good to go. I'm thinking, okay, we started out in 2010 at 34% and we're up to 54%. That's great, right? That's a 20% increase. That's significant. And then I'm looking at the number of errors. Over here on the side, the number of 3s, meaning there's something unresolved, it hasn't processed yet, it's just sitting there, went from 70% down to 3%. I'm like, okay, that's significant. And then I'm realizing that the change is really largely just in those 2 areas. We're correcting the errors, which puts them into the number 2 category, so it's shoving that up. We don't have issues with signatures. We get those immediately, all during the year. We never have kids with no signatures, rarely. Although I did get some of those over the summer. We got those resolved. But what I'm looking at and what the data tells me as a counselor is we got an issue. We are not moving very far with the kids who aren't completing their FAFSA. It's gone down 6% in 2 years. That's movement. And I'm thrilled we're getting fewer mistakes, but we have to this year start targeting those kids who are not completing the FAFSA at all. And one of the things we did, because our information that we're getting from the district on the FAFSA numbers doesn't include who are these kids. And I think that was my last, hold on. No, it is. It doesn't include who are these kids. We know that the AVID kids, we know the special ed groups, we know the English learner groups, but we don't know who are these kids on our campus that aren't doing it. So we did a little internal survey. Granted, it was informal. It was what the seniors told us. And from what the seniors told us is that we're doing a good job with, or their parents are doing a good job with, I don't think they need much help from us, our IB students, our honor students, our AVID kids. Shoot, our AVID FAFSA completion rate was 100%. Our IB kids, our honors kids, those kids in those classes were at 80%. Our academies and our kids in standard, regular level, college, probably community college kids were still at 40%. It was really crystal clear based on the data what we are missing. And based on my experience over the summer and last year, and that is the counselor's attempt, we always go for the big shot to try to get as many as possible. It isn't getting the kids who need us the most. And the kids who need us the most are the ones who aren't going to come after school. They're going to be doing it in their classrooms. Why? And I looked at, why has AVID got a 100% rate? A lot of those kids come from first in their family. A lot of these kids have financially, kids with parents who don't have any financial knowledge at all. How are they at 100%? And it's because it's in class, it's with a specific person being personal, direct, and specific. And that's why. And because they follow up not just once, like counselors going into the senior government classes, there's still 50% of you who have not completed your FAFSA. Where in AVID it's, hey, John, your FAFSA is not completed. You got to get that done. Here, computer, have a seat. Let me sit next to you. Let's pull that up. What's the problem? That's what they get in AVID. Now, the problem with the counselor's caseload, I have 630 kids in my caseload. I have 140 seniors. The 140 seniors is absolutely doable, but it's hard to catch them all in big classes. However, I know now, this year, we're going to target academies. We know that they're grouped. That's easy to catch. We know we can get them into computer labs. I know I can train those academy coordinators. I know that I can also catch our seniors who are not in a special program in a new advisory period that we have. 2 days a week now, every Tuesday and Thursday, we have a 25-minute session where I got a group of 36 seniors in a room. So I can at least, with my caseload, all of us, with our 600, I think we have about 600 seniors on the campus, we can at least start it. We can at least give them the application, the FAFSA worksheet, and say, okay, just basic data. You can leave out, because this is what freaks them out, leave out your social, you can leave out your parents' income. Just take a look at what you have here. Basics. Bring that back Thursday. And then Thursday they come back and they say, okay, let's apply for a PIN. Explain, it's easy. It's in chunks and it's in pieces for these kids who get nervous about this. And then once they do that, we do this before Cash for College workshops. Then they have that ready. And then we come to them with, okay, we've got some organized workshops for you. Those are off campus. We can still offer those, not off campus. They're still in the evenings. But then we still offer for these particular groups of kids that we want to target this year, because we know the other ones are coming to the Cash for College workshops. On campus during the school day, we go into the classrooms and we take them to the labs and we help them walk through, and we invite parents. If that makes any sense to anybody. And I'm hoping it works. Now, my job as the coordinator or the point person for FAFSA in the district is, that's a great plan. I've got some ideas. I can work with my teachers. You know, teachers are protective of their time, but we can make this part of their curriculum in economics classes and government classes. We can do that. I'm a teacher. I can help with that. But we've got to figure out now this year, our challenge is going to be making sure that the other high schools are doing in kind. That everyone's also making the same kind of progress and making the same kind of movement that we are. Not just high. We can't go back to the isolated, this is what we're doing at North. It has to be a counselor-wide sharing information thing. Okay.
Thanks. Thank you.
Is that good?
Yep.
I'm good.
So one obvious question, and then I'd like to open it up. Yep. So go ahead, Buffy.
Do your counselors normally work through the summer?
No. No. No.
It was probably in this case.
We were funded this year. We have a grant. It's a Bill and Melinda Gates grant, is my understanding, that for the last couple of years has helped to keep this movement with getting counselors to come in many, many evenings and many, many weekends. That's gone. The grant's going to be gone soon if it's not gone already, and we have to be able to sustain it. We did get our community aides paid through that grant this summer, and the 3 counselors, 2 of them were from my high school, 1 from another a close-by school, and we got paid for part of our work. So no, we don't normally, but I'm really glad we did, like I said, because we learned an awful lot this summer, and I'm trying to figure out a way that we can do it again because I really felt like it was critical.
We're having a counselor, we have a partnership with Johns Hopkins University, and we're jumping on this texting campaign for the summer as well as throughout the year, and also counselors to be hired for the summer, and they'll be receiving stipends. And the lady who is very knowledgeable and very wonderful to think of us, she used to be on the pilot project with Albuquerque, and she has conducted tremendous research. And according to her, in the western region, quote me if I'm wrong, Greg, she indicated that because of this texting campaign, because they've already worked with 6 or 7 other districts throughout the United States, the increase for the western states, we're looking at 20 to 40% FAFSA completion, because that's allowing counselors to give students that individualized attention, because FAFSA does not take 5 minutes. When there's a lot of complexities to some of the questions, and sometimes parents just can't answer those questions. So I'm looking forward to this program, and I think it's a 3-year program, is it, Greg? With texting, with Laura? I think it's 3 years.
Well, it's the same
yeah,
program Erin was referring to. It's with researchers at Stanford and at Harvard.
Right.
Where they're what's the balance between personal support
right.
and technology? And so one of the things they're playing with is if we text students like 8 or 10 times over the course of the summer between graduation and actual attendance and start of the school year, what's the effect that might have? Suppose we text them and their parents 8 or 10 times over the course of the summer. Suppose we put Erin during the summer at the local community college where most of Riverside students tend to enroll, on the theory that she has a relationship with her students. Would that help increase college enrollment? Suppose we keep Erin at her high school. What would the effect of that be if she's there Tuesdays and Thursdays for 10 weeks throughout the summer, sort of thing? So there's some interesting research underway, kind of what's the balance between the personal support and just the information that's needed. And this will play out. Harvard did this study with H&R Block a few years ago, which I'm sure some of you heard about, where people came in just to have their taxes done at H&R Block, and at the end of their taxes being done, the staffer for H&R Block said, oh, are you going to college this fall, or do you have somebody in your family going to college? And if the person hadn't filled out their FAFSA, again, they just filled out their taxes, so they had all the information basically needed for the FAFSA. It would take about 7 more minutes to fill out the FAFSA because they already gathered all the financial information. And what they found was it was really, I think what Erin was referring to here, it was really the relationship of and taking that step right there. Not sending the person home with the information like, oh, here's what you do, fill out this form, you know, or get your PIN and do all. So the effect of just giving the information without the personal support was massively different in terms of whether that person ended up filing a FAFSA and then actually ended up enrolling in the post-secondary institution that they or their family member wanted to go to. Yeah.
I found often with these families coming in, getting help, that while they were sitting there, I would ask where they're going, and again, a large majority were going to our local community college, and I'd ask them if you've completed the application yet, and a lot of them said no. And I'd say, you know, we can do it right now. It's a 5-minute application. I helped more people. As soon as we were done with the FAFSA, it was, let's do the application for RCC. I did many. I had people who were coming in without an appointment, bringing in friends who are not in this district saying, you know, I know we don't have an appointment, but can you think you can help her? And I'm still getting people texting me. I did give my phone number to a couple of former students of mine, and they're at RCC saying, you know, Mrs. Martinez, I'm trying to get enrolled, blah, blah. There's definitely a relationship, a connection that helps a lot.
Dina had a question?
Yes, two questions for Erin. Did you, can you, or Greg, can you actually disaggregate the data by ethnicity and then income level? So free reduced lunch, you know, who in that has done it based on that? Can you?
Well, think of what you can do if you're working with a school district. The school district has this entire student information system there, and all these elements, maybe not income, but they would have free and reduced lunch, you know. And that's where I really found the power of this in terms of how well, as they were saying, how well did the AVID kids do? How well did the CT kids do? And this takes time. This doesn't happen the first or second year like they're saying, but as you kind of build the momentum, you can now, and the credibility of this work and sticking with it, you can theoretically, let's say next year, go to those CT directors and say, hey, we're going to feed back information to you about how well your kids are doing, and we need your kids because we need to change those zeros to 2s, you know, and your kids are going to be strategic to making that happen. So the integration of this data set, or introducing a survey in terms of intent, like near the end of the senior year. So how well did what students told you, you know, 2 weeks before graduation, how does that match up with FAFSA? And what a lot of districts are now doing, maybe you guys want to comment, is did they actually enroll? And so NSC data or state longitudinal data or whatever such, it's like, but that becomes like, there's a lot of energy up here in the last 45 minutes, I think, right? And so you've invested all this time, why wouldn't you, and they want to now have this increased interest. Not that school-based people didn't have the interest before, but this seems to be kind of catalyzing, damn, I just spent all this time and I gave up all this, you know, some of my personal time or whatever, or I brought in volunteers and I got school folks, AVID directors, CT directors. That'd be nice to know whether the students actually enrolled. And so it ends up, it unleashes another whole set.
We can talk about that some more in the next panel. We did break up ethnicity and also by GPA. It was very important, GPA. I need to know who's applying for FAFSA. What if you have 1.0 and you're applying for FAFSA? You know, you can run them by GPA, ethnicity, age, I mean, all of that.
But so, Greg, I mean, for those of the majority of the school districts who are not participating in the pilot, besides the information that you're going to be continuing to post on your website about the by high school number of FAFSA completions, are there other ways that interested people can track students in groups, or obviously it's hard to do individually with regards to FAFSA completions? I mean, just more strategies if you're not part of the pilot with access to this data.
The power of this is being able to use technology once you kind of get through. I mean, I think what they were inferring was every district had, what this also does is clean up districts' student information databases. So most districts, as Gloria was mentioning, you know, students move. So are they taking a new address with them? What address are they going to put on that FAFSA form? Because in order for them to find out whether that student has a completed FAFSA, it has to match, the school records have to match what is put in on that FAFSA form. And I mean, we found like a 22, 23% error in in that information in Chicago, and I think that's probably a reasonable. But part of that is districts aren't necessarily really good about keeping up their data systems, right? Every time any of us goes to a medical appointment, goes to the bank, whatever, we're always being asked to confirm our address. I mean, because they want the most for billing purposes, not for altruistic reasons. We want to make sure we pay our bills. And but school systems, for the most part, we don't build in that redundancy to keep confirming. And what this project has done is to push kind of that verification of data, which gets really frustrating because of the huge mobility rates in a lot of our districts and such.
A few more questions, Tom.
So I think this question is for Gloria. You put up a great slide about Pell Grant recipients, and I just wanted to know what the source of that data is, because
Fresno City Community College is our partner.
Okay.
And I received that from them.
Okay.
They're
and
here
so
today.
it's from Fresno City College students that participated in the FAFSA and went there, and then that's where the Pell Grant data.
Right. Well, we partnered because what we did is that Flag Code 3, that our students, we're focusing on our students because the majority of our students attend Fresno City Community College. We partnered where those 3s were called in and they receive additional assistance also at the labs at Fresno City College, along with working with Gary helping our students. That also made those 3s 2s. So that means more accurate FAFSAs, that means more EFCs, because also the EFC, that's another thing, you need to know the EFC changed. It jumped from 32,000, now it's 23,000. So that means what 3 years ago was 20,000, it jumped to the threshold went up to 32,000 to 30,000 and 31 and then 32. Now it went down to 23. Not unless it's changed between now and December. But you need to know that. So families need to know that. So the message also needs to be delivered there. But the accuracy with the Flag Code 3 was a lot of our work with Fresno City, and they ran that report against, I guess, throughout the California. Gary, can you just, what you did?
That data we collected from the data we received from the Department of Ed, how many Pell recipients, and our own internal data, and how many was awarded. We get a listing of all that, and so that's how we compared it, and I just compared it with all California community colleges of the percentage of their Pell Grant recipients to their populations.
So I hope that answers that question.
Just, I mean, maybe, I mean, I like the whole, I mean, they're going to go base for the reception. I just want to keep a pretty tight ship with regards to our timing. Gary, did you want to add something quick?
Just real briefly, if you do not already have a partnership with your community college, local community college, do so. It's to our advantage as well to work with this data. What happens is the students usually come to our campus, the day school starts, where's my money for books? What's going to happen? You have a reject. So there's a vested interest on our community college side to get all this data cleaned up. The majority of our students come here, but we opened up our lab to anyone. Even we had Fresno State that's in our system, and UC Merced. They would have, our financial aid computer lab was known throughout the valley because we were there, we had full-time financial aid specialists there helping students answer these types of questions, and it helps everyone involved. Because if not for the regular term, they come for the summer, and they're going to have questions. So get with your local community college partner, financial aid office, because we have a vested interest of getting this data cleaned before school starts, because it just helps our long lines as well at the beginning of the term.
Okay, well, thank you. I want to thank our panelists. I know that